Okay, so here's the intro of the song. Now basically this chord progression that he's doing is what is done throughout verses 1 and verses 2 as well. So it's the intro of the song and then it's verse 1 and 2. Verse 3 is slightly different, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So anyway, before you start, make sure you tune your guitar down by 1/2 step. So all your strings are tuned down 1/2 step, okay? So instead of an E, your low string is going to be a D sharp. Instead of an A, that string is going to be a G sharp. So just tune your whole guitar down by 1/2 step because that's the tuning the song is played in, as well as all the other Guns N' Roses tunes. With that said, basically the chords that he's using here is, it starts out with an A minor chord, and then it goes to a D minor chord, and then it goes to a G major chord, and then it goes to a C major chord. But when it gets to the C major, it kind of walks down from the C major to the A minor, and we'll get to the exact how it's played in a second. So if you're watching this from YouTube, you don't have the chord diagrams and the tabs on the screen. If you're watching this from my website, you do. So whichever way you're watching this, just kind of follow along. Alright, so first let me play this through and then I'll break down exactly how it's done. So it's... Okay, so the way this is done is, for the intro, he starts out on the 3rd fret of the low E string. And that's how he leads into the start of the song. So it's, and then it starts the A minor chord, okay? Now he walks up the A minor chord in this fashion. Okay. Alright, now, and once you get to the D string, instead of playing the note on the 2nd fret, you want to already be at your D minor chord by that point, or at least you want to have an open D string, because it's going to go. See how it's a double hit of that D string? And then you play through the whole D minor chord. And then it goes to the G chord, G major chord, making sure to have both your 4th and 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the high E and the B string. So it's... And that's all you're going to play at the G chord. Because then you want to have an open A. Okay, because that's going to be your next. Okay, so it's... Alright, so it's... That's on the C chord, and then you move down to the 2nd fret, and it's 2 open open. So far what you have is... And then it starts over. Alright, and then once it starts over, it basically does the same thing until it gets to the G again. And then it kind of ends off the phrase on a 2, 3, 4 on the low E string. And then... Okay, so the second time around it sounds like this. time. Alright, so the whole intro is this, starting on that, I'm going to call it the note G. So throughout this lesson, I'm just going to refer to the notes as if it was in standard tuning, because that's what I'm used to playing. I'm used to playing standard tuning, you know. So this isn't technically a G, it's actually technically an F sharp, since your whole guitar is tuned down. But for the sake of communicating this lesson, we're just going to call this a G, okay? So it's... Okay, so that's basically the intro, and it does the same basic chord progression throughout the verse 1 and 2 as well. Alright, and now you also notice that in the song, in the intro, the second time around the progression, he gets kind of you know, some nice sounding feedback notes, and it's hard to accurately depict that because, you know, I'm playing at such a low volume right now. But if you're, you know, if you have your amp cranked, it's kind of using like the note of the 12th fret of the high E string. So it's either a harmonic, and then he's feedbacking from there, and he's also kind of bending on the 2nd fret of the G string. So it's... Okay, so doing a kind of like a bend, 2nd fret G string, full bend, bending up to this note. You're kind of doing that. So if you have your amp cranked, just play around with that. But I'm not going to try and get that exact feedback tones that he's getting, because I simply can't at this low of a volume. So with that said, that's the intro. Now we're going to move on to verse 1. Okay, now here's the first verse of the song, and pretty much everything that he does in the verse is pretty much what we already went over in the intro. However, there's just a couple minor things I wanted to point out, which is why I'm giving this its own section. So anyway, the basic you know, chord progression goes around 4 times. It's just the A minor to the D minor to the G major, and then to the, you know, the C major, walking down to exactly what we did in the intro. It does that 4 times. So on the last one, though, it goes like this. So instead of going, the intro ended like this. So instead of ending like that, it ends like this. Okay, and the F chord is what starts out the chorus. Alright, so it's just a simple, it's still on that C major chord. So it's 3-2 open, and then 2 on the A string, and then open A string, and then an F. That's the start of the chorus. Okay, so it goes around 4 times. Into the chorus. Now, I didn't play that exactly right that time. When I'm playing this song live, I tend to not do exactly as the track does. I do that with a lot of songs, but the way I have it tabbed out and the way that I showed you in the intro is the correct way, 2 album, 2 track. But if you're just playing the chords and you're kind of playing the notes of the chords, it's going to sound fine, okay? Which brings me to my next point. You're going to hear that since there is 2 guitar players, you have Izzy and then you have Slash, there is a second guitar part that's going on. And pretty much Izzy's just basically playing the intro riff the whole time, exactly as we said. He's just doing that, and now Slash is basically just playing those same chords, but he's just kind of playing notes within the chords that sound good. Some notes, in particular, are when it's at the point of the A minor. Sometimes he takes his first finger off and kind of hammers it on, so it goes. Okay, same thing with the D minor. When it's on the D minor, he goes. Okay, so those are some notable things. Also with the A minor, sometimes he'll take his his pinky and hit the 3rd fret of the high E string and go. Okay, so now I have the chord progression looped in my looper pedal, so I'll show you just some examples of what you could do. Okay, so I was just basically playing around with the notes of the chords. Okay, so as long as you're hitting the notes of the A minor chord as the A minor chord is occurring with the other guitar, it's going to sound fine. Same thing with the D minor, same thing with all the other chords. So those are just some examples of what they do, okay? So pretty straightforward verse 1. The only notable thing really is just that ending that leads into the chorus, which is what we're going to get to next. Alright, so here's the first chorus of the song. So chorus number 1 and chorus number 2 are played clean. Alright, and then after chorus number 2, that's when the solo part kicks in. But anyway, chorus number 1's played clean, and it's coming out of the verse. The verse ended like this, as you recall. And then it starts with an F. Okay, so an F major chord is the first chord of the verse. And then it goes to an A minor. Okay? Now the fills that take place in the chorus are occurring over the A minor chord, okay? So the first one, I may not have it tabbed out, or I may not be playing exactly as I have it tabbed out, but it sounds very, very, very close to the album. And obviously if you're on YouTube, you don't have the tabs on the screen, but if you're watching this from the website, you can follow the tabs, or you just listen to what I'm doing. So once it's at the A minor, he's kind of going like. So he's doing a lot of hammering with his first finger on the first fret of the B string. So it's. Okay, so as long as you get that hammer on the first fret in timed correctly, it's going to sound very, very close to what they're doing on the track. Okay, so you can just follow along with the tabs, and that's how I tabbed it out. All right, and then it goes around again. And again, these chords, you can kind of strum them, or you can kind of strum and then play notes of the chords. So you can go, or you can go, however you want. Just it's an F major, G major, so it's either strum or play individual notes or a combination of both. Okay, now the second fill, the second time around goes. Alright, so that's a slide up to the, from the 3 to the 5 on the B string. Alright, so I actually like to use my third finger here because coming down I like to use my second finger, so I go. Or I'm sorry, I like to use my first finger coming down, so it's. See how I'm using my third finger to start out, and then my first finger to come back down. Alright, and then it's a 2nd fret G string, and then open. And then you kind of want to end this phrase on the 3rd fret of the D string, because that's your note F. That sets you up for the F chord. Okay, so it's... Okay, and that leads you into your last one. Alright, so far what we have is... The final one, which is where we're at now, it goes, it's basically just a C major chord, just the first 3 notes of the C major chord. And then walking down to the 2nd fret, so it's 2 open open. And then an A minor chord. Alright, I like to hit that note, the 1st fret. You know, any of the notes of the A minor will sound fine. Or... I like to hit that because it's the 3rd, and the 3rd always sounds more melodic. Alright, and then it goes to a G major chord. And again, you can hit any 3 notes of the G, but I like to do the E string, the A string, and the G string. Okay, so... Okay, and then it ends on the F. So it's... Alright, and then it ends on the F, then it goes to a G, then it goes to the A minor. Alright, so that whole last section is... Alright, and then it kind of rides around on the notes of the A minor before it builds back up into the chorus, ending with another one of these little hammers on your first fret of the B string. So it's... Okay, so that's the apparent sound that you want to get. Which leads you right back into verse 1. Alright, so, which leads you back into verse 2. Alright, so the chorus, what we have coming out of verse 1 is... Okay, so notice that if I'm not completely accurate with the tabs every time, the main thing is those, those notable hammer-ons on, on the A minor and that one signature. As long as you get those in there, it's going to sound very, very close to exact to the track. Okay, so that's chorus 1. Now we get on to verse 2. Alright, so this is verse 2, and verse 2 is exactly the same as verse 1. Same chord progression, same amount of times, same second guitar kind of, embellishing on the chords. All that stuff is the same. The only difference is the lead in to the chorus, okay? Excuse me. So, the very last time around on this second verse, it goes like this. so that leads into the second chorus. So we've already went over this. It's very similar to what we've been doing already. It's just kind of the walk down from the C major chord, and then you go down to the second fret of the A string and then do 2 open open, and then the A minor chord, and then G major chord, and then it's back to the F second chorus. Okay, so the chorus starts out on the F. Okay, so one more time. Back into the chorus. Very quick, very simple. On to chorus number 2. Okay, so now here's chorus 2 of the song. Now chorus 2 starts out the same way as chorus 1. You still start out with the F major chord, to the G major chord, then to the A minor. Alright, and now the fills still take place on the A minor chord just as they did in the first chorus. And now this time the fills go like this. Okay, so you still have that little hammer on the first fret of the B string with your first finger. But now you're putting your pinky down on the 3rd fret of the high E string and you're pulling off. So, and then you do another little hammer on the 1st fret again. So. And now the second time around, it does another cool little bluesy fill. And I recommend doing this with your first finger because you're basically just sliding up from the 3rd to the 5th fret on the B string, then to the 8th fret on the B string, then down to the 5th fret on the B string, then down to the 3rd fret on the B string, and then down to the 1st fret of the B string. But you want to be able to grab an F chord. Okay, so that's why you want to use your first finger for this fill. So this fill goes. See how I catch that F, and the note I'm catching is with my 3rd finger, 3rd fret of the D string. I'm catching the note F for the F chord. So it's. And basically, you're just kind of, as you're sliding up, you're kind of alternating with the open high E string. Okay, so trying to fit it in, to correct the timing, it would be like. Okay, so you see how that fit in there? This fill starts a little earlier than the other blues fill in the first chorus. So again. Okay, real cool fill. Alright, and that leads you right back into the last one. Right after he hits this G, this is where the distortion part kicks in. And the distortion part is just power chords. And now you can you start out with the C power chord, 3rd fret of the A string. Alright, and now you can either go down to the 2nd fret power chord, 2 and the 4, or you can just kind of move your first finger. Either one will work. So you can either go, or you can go, whichever one you prefer. They sound so close, it's not going to make a huge difference if you choose one or the other. So for the purposes of this, let's just do the one where you move your first finger down. So then it goes to the A power chord, and then it goes to a full G major chord. Okay, Okay, so every time he hits the G major when he's doing this walk down, or every time he's at the G, instead of doing a power chord, he does a G major chord. Kind of makes the rhythm sound more full. And then it goes to an F power chord, and then back to a G major chord, and then it builds up on the A power chord. So all together it sounds like this. And then that's where the solo kicks in. Alright, so all together this whole chorus sounds something like this. Okay, my guitar is a little out of tune here because I have my guitar intonated for standard, so because I have this guitar tuned down to the half step down tuning, things are sounding a little out of tune. So no matter how hard I try to perfectly tune this, it's intonated for standard, so it's going to sound a little out of tune. So I apologize about that. But anyway, once you do that, once you, after this part, okay, so he's kind of palm muting and then kind of slowly releasing the palm mute, giving it a build-up effect for the solo to kick in. All right, so that's chorus 2. Next section is the solo section. Okay, so now we're at the solo section of the song, and the way I'm presenting the solo section is basically it's going to be done in 4 parts. So the solo is going to be broken down into 3 parts, which will cover the whole solo. But then the 4th part is I'm just going to play the entire solo at a slower pace, so you can kind of just follow along and try and get your phrasing and timing down and all that stuff. So if you're watching this from YouTube, again, you don't have the chord diagrams and the tabs on the screen, so it may be a little bit more difficult, but just kind of follow along anyway. If you're watching this from the website, just follow the tabs and the chord diagrams. It's the same as always, just that's how I do things. So anyway, the way this solo starts is it's coming out of the second chorus and it's building up on that A power chord. Okay, and now let me play through the whole rhythm first. I want to play through the whole rhythm and then I'll do the solo. So this is what the rhythm section is doing. Okay, and then it goes into the 3rd verse. So I have that rhythm stored on my looper pedal, so that way every time I demonstrate how much of the solo we're into, you can hear what it sounds like over that rhythm, okay? So, and then when I play the slow solo section, when I do it slow, I'm going to be using the looped rhythm at a slower speed with the tabs and the chord diagrams on the screen, if you're watching from the website, that is. Alright, so anyway, this solo starts out just on the 7th fret of the D string. Okay, so that's happening during the build-up. Okay, so the first note is... Alright, and then when the rhythm starts kicking in, once he's at this point... Okay, so what he's doing is he's right here in the 5th fret pentatonic area. Okay, so he's bending up on the 7th fret of the G string, and then releasing, and then coming down to the 5. Coming down to the 5, and then back to the 7. Then the next part is, okay, so it's, alright, so he's catching the 8th fret of the B string with his pinky. So it's, and then he does that again. But the second time he hits the 8th fret twice. And then he does a release bend. Let me just try the whole thing so far. Okay, so still in the pentatonic area. And he does another little bend on the 5th fret of the A string, sliding down to the 3rd of the A string. Okay, so far with the looped rhythm, we have this. Okay, now the next part is he starts, he does a series of these octave chords. So he's on the 5th and 7th of the A and the G string, and he moves from, the 5th and 7th to the 7th and 9th, and then from the 7th and 9th to the 8th and the 10th. And then once he's there, then he starts doing single notes. So the single notes is 8, 10 on the A string. And then he slides from the 10 to the 12 on the A string. And then a 10, 12 on the D string. And then a 12, 14 on the D string. And then a 12, 14 on the G string. So it's, alright. Alright, so far what we have is so that's where we're at now. And then after he gets up to this 14th fret of the G string, he comes to the 15th fret of the B string and does a full bend. And then once he releases, he comes down to the 13th fret of the B string and goes, and that ending note is in the 14th fret of the 14th fret of the G string. Okay, so that's it for solo section 1. Solo section 2 is where he does kind of the fast thing, and it's not super difficult. We'll break it down, but let me just play all solo section 1 real quick. Time. Alright, so that's solo section 1. Alright, so yeah. The reason I divided this up into 3 different sections is so you can always kind of just go back and and whichever point you're stuck on, you can always kind of just refer back to this. So it's a relatively short solo, so it's only 3 sections long. So on to solo section 2. Alright, so this is solo section 2. Now, solo section 2 is has this one kind of tricky run that he does, but if you work on it slow and slowly build up your work on it slow so you get your phrasing down, and then slowly just build up your speed, that way it'll sound correct when you play it at the proper speed. So we're coming out of here. Alright, and as soon as he's on that 14th fret of the G string, he now goes. So if you're watching this from the website, just follow the tabs. If you're watching this from YouTube, then it's right in the blues scale. It's in the A minor blues scale. So. Okay, so playing that up to speed, let me do the whole solo where we're at now. Okay, so I kind of palm mute when I'm down here too. Alright, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. So it's right all on the D string, right? So you're going from the 13, 14, 12, and 10, okay? It's actually hard to play it just by itself, so let me try the whole thing in. Okay, so let me just try it a little slower. Alright, so hopefully you can get that down. Just keep rewinding it, keep trying it. That was it's always those things in solos, other people's solos, that take the most time, trying to get the phrasing down so it fits accurately in timing, okay? So I tried to play it enough times so you could understand what I was doing. So then after he's down here, then it comes up to the 15th fret of the B string, and it goes. So bend the 15, hit the 15 on the E string 3 times, and come down to the 13, and then do it again. Alright, and then after he does that second one, he comes down to the 12. And that's when it leads into the next solo section, okay? So right now what we have is coming out of the first section into this section. Okay, so he comes down and hits that 12, and then he starts doing some arpeggios, and that's where we're at now. So let me do the whole thing up to there. for solo section 2, work on that one quick phrase, try and get your timing down, and let's move on to solo section 3, which will complete the solo, and then I'll play the whole thing slow. Alright, so now on to solo section 3. Now this is the part where the rhythm section switches to the E minor, or the E power chord. Okay, so we went over that, the fast lick in section 2, so we ended on this. Alright, so once you get to that 12, you do a E major arpeggio, so it's 14, 13, 12 on the D, G, and B string. And then you slide up to the 15 on the B string. Okay, so it's so 14, 13, 12. Then you slide up to the 15. Then you come down to the 13 of the B. Then 12 of the B. And then 13 of the B again. And then you go 13, 14, 15 of the B, G, and D. So it's alright, notice that I'm using my first finger. I want to make sure that my first finger is on the 13th fret of the B string before I come down for the second arpeggio. So it's see the fingering I'm doing there? Alright, and then it's 13, 13 on the high E and the B. And then you bend on the 15 of the B. Come down. And you do another bend on the 15. Another bend on the 15 down to the 13. So far we have one more time. Alright, and then it ends down in the 5th to 8th fret pentatonic region. So you bend on the 8th fret of the B string, bend on the 8th fret, and then hit the 5th fret of the E string. Okay, and then 8, 5 on the B, and then 7th fret bend on the G, down to the 5th fret of the G, and you end the whole solo by grabbing 7th fret G, 5th fret B, and you just bend the one note on the G string. You don't want to bend it all the way up to a full. You just kind of want to bend it do like a half bend or a quarter bend so it gets that clashing sound. Alright, so far we have let me take it from here. One more time. so the whole solo we have. Okay, so that's the whole solo. Now the next section I'm going to play the entire solo a little bit slower, so you can kind of work on your phrasing for any part that you may need work on, or whatever part you may need to watch my the fingers that I'm using. All right, so that is the next section. Here's verse 3. Alright, so basically this is coming right out of the solo. So if you're playing the lead on this part, know that the verse 3 starts on a D minor chord, and the solo ends on this bend right here. So what you want to do is, if you're playing the lead, you want to come down from this bend. You're on the 7th fret of the G string. You want to come down and just kind of land on the non-bent note, okay, 7th fret of the G string, because that's the note D, all right? All right, because verse 3 starts on a D minor, and that is the note D, so it fits perfectly going right into the into verse 3, okay? And what Slash does is he actually gets like really nice feedback on that note. You know, he's holding that note D, he's doing the unbend, and he just gets like the perfect sounding feedback. So it's a lot easier to do if your amp is cranked up at a really nice volume, okay? But I'm playing at a low volume, so it's not possible right now. But with that said, basically the chords of verse 3 are simply D minor, and then G major, and then a C major, but you're doing the same walk down to the A minor again. Alright, and once you're on the A minor, you do one of those little hammers on your first finger again. So it's okay. So it just keeps looping around that 3 times or 4 times. And then on the last one, it kicks the distortion on. Alright, so let's just play just that. So. As soon as it gets to that last G, the distortion kicks back on, and it goes. Okay, so just C power chord, and you can move your first finger down to make it a, you know, just the C power chord over the B bass, or you can just do the power chord on the 2nd fret, and then to the A power chord, and then to the open G major. Okay, and then the chord starts back on the F. Alright, so that's verse 3, pretty straightforward. Now all we have left is the final chorus, and then that's the end of the song. Alright, so here's the third and final chorus, and this is the end of the song. So basically, the rhythm section, it's all stuff that you've already learned, or that we've already went over in this solo. It's just a bunch of power chords. So I'm just going to play the whole rhythm section for you over, and then I'm just going to teach you the leads, and then I'll play the leads over my looper pedal, and that's the end of the song. So basically, the chorus, it's coming out of here. So again, it starts on the F, so here's how the chorus goes. On the C major chord. So it's just a bunch of power chords, you know, same as we've been doing throughout the whole song. I don't think I need to go over that. Anyway, what I do probably need to go over is just the leads. So basically, the first lead is, it comes in when the chorus first hits the first A minor. So it goes. Okay, so it's still up there in that 12th to 15th fret range, you know, in the A minor pentatonic scale stuff. So you're bending on the 15th fret B string. Okay, so bending on the 15, coming down to the 13 of the B, and then 15, 13, then end on the 14 of the G string. So that's the first lead. The second lead that he does is he bends on the 15 of the E string. Okay, so he bends on that 15 of the E string, and then he comes down to the 12 of the E string, and then 15 of the B string, and 13 of the B string. So it's a little. So if you're watching this from the website, just follow the tabs. If you're on YouTube, just follow what I'm doing. Alright, so far what we have, I have the chorus stored in my looper, so it's. Okay, so maybe I forgot to mention that he actually slides back down to the 13 on that second fill. Okay, and then the, then the chorus goes. And as it's doing that, he's doing a series of bends. So now you can either just walk down from the 17th fret of the B string to the 15th fret of the B string to the 13 to the 12 to the 10. You can do that, or you can bend each note. And then land on the 10. Or you can mix and match. You can go. However you choose to do it, just as long as you're hitting those tones. 17, 15, 13, 12, 10. So, the way I have it tabbed out is I have each one doing a bend. Okay, so I have the 15 is bending to the 17, and then the 13 is bending to the 15, and then the 12 is bending a half step to the 13, and then the 10th fret is bending a full step to the 12, and then the 10 is just the final note. However, in practice, that's the way it's tabbed out. You can do it that way. It'll sound fine. It'll be all bends. But in practice, what I like to do is I like to bend the first one, and then land on then come down and then just hit the 15, and then come down to the 12 and do a half bend, and then just hit the 12 unbent, and then hit the 10th fret. So I'm only actually doing 2 bends instead of 4 as depicted in the tabs, but you can do it however you want. You can mix and match just as long as you're hitting those tones, okay? So that's that part. So let's play that so far. Okay, so I did the 2 bend way that way. So anyway, with that said, the last part is where it goes down to the E power chord, and once it starts doing the F to G, F to G, F to G thing, he goes. So it's F to G. Alright, so 12, 13, 14. Or 12, 13 on the B, and then to the 14 on the G. And then a 15 bend on the B string, and then unbend, bend release. And then a 13 on the E. And then a 15 bend release on the E. And then one of these. So you just want to get your timing down. So I have to go through the whole looped progression in order to do that. So let me do that. So it just kind of ends on that note right there, which is the note C, which sounds great over the C major chord. And he also is holding some feedback for the parts where he's not really doing anything. I was just kind of sitting there trying to just tremolo, and it wasn't really doing anything. He's getting some feedback, but you gotta understand that playing at low volumes, you can't get the feedback that you would get live. Okay, and also, you can always get perfect feedback in the studio because the album is always going to be the most perfect sounding thing, okay? So just keep that in mind. And then the very end of the song has that little... Okay, so that's just like a 12 on the E string to a 13 on the B, and then a 13 on the E, and then 13, 15, and then 12, 13, and then 15 on the B, 12 E, and then end on the C, which is the 13 of the B string. And that's the entire song. So, that said, if I missed anything or whatever, if I left anything out, feel free to hit me up. Questions or comments, be glad to answer them. Thanks a lot.